This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida. It's Saturday morning, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Anne from San Clemente, California, and today on Light Talk, we will be talking about shades for focus, ensuring equity in the arts, and lighting comedy clubs, all on Light Talk.
And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers and Sistah.
Anne's back!
Anne is back.
Anne has zoomed in from on yonder.
You know, I can't live without my Zoom. I gotta zoom in.
She's zoomed in.
Oh, it's so good to have you back, Anne. It's been a long time.
Been too long.
I mean, really, it's been ridiculous. What, about 6 months at least? Before the pandemic.
I don't know, does time mean anything anymore?
Well, we were talking last week about how the historians are going to completely wipe out 2020 from all history.
Oh my
So it's going to go from 2019 to 2021.
I don't
We're just
know.
like going to forget all of this. That's the only way we can survive
Oh,
it.
God willing.
Knowing that in 2021, when it happens, which hopefully be in like 4 months, we'll wake up and say, what year is it? It's 2020. Oh, yeah. And that means we're all 1 year younger, too.
No, we'll
So I
start
think we
living
should do this.
2022, right?
No, no, then we lose a year. No, you don't want to do that.
Well, if
do
you eliminate 2020, then this New Year's we'll start living. No, I don't know. I'm confused.
I like the 1 year later part. That's good. The
Yes,
1 year younger.
yes, I do too. 1 year younger is the best part.
Yeah.
But anyway, Anne, you're back. It's great to have you back. Steve had to go out of town. And then he says, okay, we got to find someone. I said, we'll do Anne again. Yay! And she's available, thank God.
Thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
Should we break the news to Anne?
Which one?
The good news.
About the source forward
No,
color?
not that. We're not there yet.
Oh.
No, we should tell Anne that she now has a sister.
That's true.
A Lumen sister.
We've expanded
Another
the family.
One, our sister Ellen.
I saw that. How exciting. Big family.
We got a huge family. I mean, we were putting together the VIP list for the Luminsanity Festival. We're doing a Luminsanity Festival. And
Wait, is this like the Fire Festival? I'm not sure I buy it.
oh, don't mention. Someone actually posted that on our Light Talk Facebook group, and I got very insulted. I said, no. We even have a vegan menu. Okay, so,
I want to eat those strange eggs that the people in the Faroe Islands go rappelling down the cliffs to get.
well, we're going to have to rappel down the cliffs to get them, I'm afraid.
But then those birds vomit on you. It's really quite a challenge.
That's right. Anyway, welcome, Anne. And you are coming with us to it's the Fire Festival. Not really, because we tried to get them for promoters, but unfortunately they are incarcerated. So we can't get them. So we're self-promoting this whole thing.
I love it.
Along with the Tourist Bureau of the Faroe Islands. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh, on with the banter. Let's get the show going.
And before we get started, we have news. News. Wow. Not a lot of news, but it's a lot of big news. One big news
It would be
item.
bigger if we could actually use them.
ETC.
Well, they don't spell so well because this product is missing a letter.
That's right. It is. And we're talking about the new Source 4 FWRD
What's
Color.
that?
Forward. Source forward. Get it? It's the Source forward instead of the Source 4. This is some new technology they call LED, and they put it in. They actually have different colors, which is kind of cool. And it's low voltage and it lasts forever. Isn't that amazing? So it's the new color version of their Source Forward retrofits for their Source 4s. Well, a lot of people don't know what a Source 4 Forward is.
The original, right? The original ones. Maybe somebody should go over that.
Well, how many years ago? 5 years ago, ETC came up with this great idea where they would actually replace the back end of your Source 4 with the LED system, right?
Right.
With the lamp.
Right.
And it didn't cost as much as if you were going to get like a full LED colored Lico. So, but it was white back then, right? It was just shades of white.
It had some trouble in the rollout, the original LED source that they had, and then they pulled them back and they fixed them up, and I think they're working with Nichia, which is a Japanese LED producer, a high-end, high-quality one, and then they got that going well. I think they probably sold a bunch, and of course the logical next step was this.
Yes, which is a full color version.
Yeah, and it looks like a little LED bulb with like vertical strips of, different colored LEDs, and I can't wait to see it in the flesh.
Very interesting. Well, we'll have to get some more information about it. But Stan is correct. It's too bad we can't use them in theaters right now.
I've got like a lot of, I don't know what the cost is. Our friends down in Orlando, I'm sure would love to come up and show it to us. But the notion that we could convert every Source 4 housing to an LED fixture is exciting. I will say one thing, thinking it through, we would have to deal with the power distribution. In our system, our dimmer racks are so old that we can't change the electronics module to do switched power. And you want to make sure you have switched power, so you don't want to have power to that source, to that light 24 hours a day. You want to turn them off at night. So we would have to look at how are we going to distribute the power in an effective way in theaters that have, one of my theaters has 300 dimmers. The other one has about, I think we have three racks. That's a lot of modules, and so we have to kind of. I'm sure ETC, maybe they'll have a smart way to do that. But
listen, all you have to do, you only need 120, right? So all you need to do is get a lot of extension cords.
Yeah, that's the way.
And run those cords to people's offices, right? And you just tap into the damn 120.
Yeah, we'll just plug them into the walls and tape it in with gaff tape, right?
Don't think I've never done that. I'm sorry, Dave. We're out of circuits. There's got to be another circuit somewhere. Right. Come on.
Well, I'm sure they're going to have the pass-through power. So it's true. You could probably. How many can you run on 115 amp or 120 amp circuit? So we could probably. That's how we do that now in new facilities. The power distribution is it's such a lighter, so it's so cost effective. But yeah.
Anyway, enough about the Source Forward. Stan has our first listener question.
From our dear friend, Drew Belinsky, who writes, should I wear sunglasses during focus so I won't damage my eyes? In the 12 years I've been working in this career, I have never worn sunglasses while focusing lights, and I've never been bothered by looking directly into a Source 4 or a Fresnel, etc. However, I've worked with a number of colleagues who do sport the shades. And am I destroying my vision if I continue to practice my sunglass-less methods? Well, this actually popped up on the Facebook group. It was a lot of really interesting information that came up. And one thing that I learned, basically the answer is no, because, the sun is going to hurt you if you stare at it, right? And I told a little story when I was visiting David at the beach in Long Beach years ago. I've never spent much time on a West Coast beach. So as the sun was setting in the west, and I was looking at the ocean on the East Coast. Of course, it's the opposite. You see the sun rise, and the light was glinting off the little crests in the waves on the water. It was so beautiful. It was like a dance. So I was staring at it. And I scorched my retinas.
You were hypnotized.
I was fascinated. I was studying the light, and so that was not smart. So learn from me. What I'm saying is the sun.
Don't look at the light.
The sun and concentrated sun that's really freaking dangerous, right? And will damage. But I think in terms of a Source 4, doing any permanent damage, probably not, unless you just really, somebody locks your head in a device and force you to look at it for an hour or two. But the one thing I learned, though, was that somebody actually posted a link to a gaffer's site, which literally had a device specifically made to look into high output light sources like HMIs and metal halide sources, and it's designed for that specific purpose for making sure that you're in the light. But I'm definitely a fan of the shadow method, right? And my post was, the shadow knows where your light is. Just look at your shadow. In terms of organizing it for making sure you're being hit by a hotspot. Somebody said the electrician should be able to do that. You just be the target, and I think that's true. And I think you can glance up into it. I just wouldn't spend a lot of time staring into it. Although some people talked about using welder's glass. There's a whole bunch of methods, and so I would just direct people to go to that thread. It was really quite interesting question that Drew posed.
Look, Anne has designed hundreds of shows. She's assisted a lot of really great designers. I'm going to just punt to Anne here and ask you, what do you do? And have you ever seen a designer use welding glasses on stage?
Theron Musser says that she ruined her eyesight by staring at the lights throughout her career.
Okay.
So I'm a huge believer in do not face the light, face away from the light, look at your shadow. I think that's a more accurate depiction of where the light is, my personal opinion, because you get, all the spots in your eyes and eventually you can't quite see as well as you should. But if you're turned away from the light, then you can still see your paperwork if you need to. You can still see the hot spot. So I do not let my students face the light for that reason. I want them to, if there's any truth in this, I want them to keep their eyesight for as long as possible. And I also don't let them wear sunglasses because I think it looks like you're trying to be too cool for school, to be honest. I'm like, come on, don't do that to yourself. Don't start your career looking like, you're all that.
Start
or
and
whatever.
end your career.
So that's just my opinion. Sorry for those of you who wear sunglasses. The only time I look at the lights is if I'm doing an outdoor venue and I need to see the hot spot because I'm focusing in broad daylight. But in that case, I have seen somebody, I forget who it is, where, there's like a gaffer's glass thing that can go around your neck and you hold it up like a monocle to your eye. Like, who makes that? GAM or City Theatrical? Somebody makes that.
That's what the guy posted. It was like
it's great.
Right.
So it's a little expensive, I think, but you can use that. And if you can't afford that, you use, very saturate red, blue, and green gels all held together, and then you look through the gel and you just see the hot spot. So it's very seldom that I do that, but those are some techniques that I use. But yeah, I don't let my students stare at the light, nor do I let them wear sunglasses.
Do you know that Gilbert once focused an entire show with no power?
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
He focused the whole show. And I wasn't there, but one of his other assistants was there and told me the story. It was an outdoor show somewhere. And he basically, all the power went out and they were running out of time. And he asked the assistant, get me a flashlight. So he would point the flashlight at the lens of the Leco, and he could actually see it reflect off the reflector inside the Leco. And he would tell the electricians whether to pan or tilt the light until that lamp was right in the center. That's how he could tell where the hot spot would fall. Even bring in shutters, believe it or not.
Wow.
He even guesstimate the shutters. Yeah, he did this.
That's incredible.
So,
great story.
Yeah. But I agree with Ann. I don't look at the lights. I assisted an amazing guy named Steve Ross. He's a great designer. He lives up in Canada. And Steve would stare into the light. I mean, literally take a pose and look into each light. And I said, Steve, man, you're gonna burn out your eyes. And he never did. That's the amazing thing. That was his style. So some people do that. So I'm not going to criticize that because everybody has their own thing. But I think it's a little dangerous because your retina is going to be so closed. And then if you're going to turn and they're moving like a case behind you, you may run right into that damn fly case.
Well, you also don't have to look directly into it to get the information you need. So like when you drive at night in oncoming traffic, you can veer off to the right and your peripheral vision tells you where the oncoming car is. So you can sort of be looking at it, but not directly at it and shift your gaze away. Tom Skelton, I focused for Tom Skelton once. And he focused with his cheek. He would turn his cheek towards the fixture, and he could feel. And back then it's incandescent. He could feel the heat on his face.
Okay, I have the next question. Maxine from London asks, when we finally get back to work on productions, how can we make sure that all of the work we spent on gender and BIPOC equity is carried over to being hired on creative teams? Man, what a serious question after the last question.
Serious question.
After a half hour of hijinks, we finally get serious.
It's like, how do I figure out who the mother of this child is before I cut it in half?
Oh, man. Yikes.
Man,
That was dark. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a hard question.
It's a very hard question.
It's a
but
Solomon-esque
It's very biblical.
question.
But why are we going biblical now? I mean, are we really at the
I'm
end
just
of
talking
time?
about very difficult questions of wisdom that.
Wisdom.
In other words,
Yeah,
yes,
when we
have
think
that,
about
don't we?
Solomon, we think of Solomon as the very wise king.
Well, I have to say, Maxine, this is the most important question of 2020, right? And I would also say that it is one of the silver linings of 2020. I'm a big silver lining person, right? So yes, we're all shut down. Yes, we're all not working. There's all these things that are going on that are very challenging. But what it does allow us to do is to reevaluate our entire industry and come back, like the phoenix, like a better being than we were before. So I think it just takes real, there is no just to this because there's nothing simple, but I think it takes dedication to not forgetting all those life lessons when we come back, not just going back to how it was before. I think we need to open the doors to more BIPOC and gender diverse individuals. Like, let's consider who they are, where they came from. There's different places where designers might have been always working, and now it's time to find those amazing designers and bring them into places they weren't working before, and I think it's all over. It's management, it's hiring practices, it's just the work we choose to do on Broadway or anywhere else. I think it's just not an easy question, but one of the most important things that we should work on when we come back. And I think that can be a good thing and give everybody purpose who's, sitting at home and not working and wishing they were back. Like, thinking about important ways to handle this sort of topic, I think really matters. And let's, we've been through so much in 2020, like, let's make it count. Like, when we come back, let's do something that makes it worth it, and maybe that's one of those things.
Please.
David, what do you think?
There was so many sacrifices. Now, this is really serious, and now I'm very sad because I'm just thinking about all the sacrifices that everybody has made. Some very severe, and also financial and home life and all that. I just think that we have to keep pushing so that people don't forget. And we have to remind people. And I think in our industry, we're going to be okay. I just think that there are enough big hearts in this industry to know that we still have a mission. We still need to get this done. We talk about it, but we have to do it. And actions, they're more powerful than any words. Stan, what do you think?
Well, I'm meditating as you're both speaking about in the question, how do we make sure that all the work we spent and even my own education about the issue this year, and I guess I could think of two things. To Anne's point about the silver lining, we're going through a complete curriculum reform at my institution. I mean, everything's out the window. We're just starting from scratch, right? And the reason we can do it is because so often we are building the next plane while the plane is in the air. And the plane's sort of on the ground. So it's in the hangar. So we have the time now. I think that's the silver lining that Anne talks about, that I think we should seize the day. And then I think to David's point, I agree with what David's saying. I think we have to commit to this idea to make sure, as an old hippie, we have to stay activistic in a good way, and not to be presumptuous that we or anybody, frankly, knows the solution. So we should not move too quickly, because that's how we make mistakes, but we should make progress, and we should not let our activism that was ignited again. I felt like this was the summer of '68. Like, we're activated again to be activistic. So keep the activist in us alive, and the activist in us, in each other, alive. And then to really think through, when we talk about systemic change, man, and getting things out by the roots, that's not so easy. And so I think we really want to think through our changes before we just move too quickly if we really want it to last. So the way we make sure is we have I would develop deliberate systems by which we make the changes, and in fact, test the changes slowly, incrementally as we move forward, so we don't have unintended consequences, or we reduce the amount of unintended consequences as we make change.
And Stan, I wanted to add to what you just said. We don't have all the answers. I think that's really important to know. We're not going to figure this out. What we need to do is listen. Listen to diverse voices, both in race and multigender. Because I feel like it's not something that the white people of the world can solve. It's not going to happen that way. You have to listen to diverse voices in order to figure out how we can all solve it together. And I think that's half of the problem right there, is that there haven't been voices at the table in the past.
That's really true. I'm hoping for a a thoughtful, incremental paradigm shift that started in the late 1950s. It's sort of act two of that paradigm shift.
I think also, speaking of a paradigm shift, I think there's an exodus right now. I think there's older designers who have decided it's time to retire. They're getting a taste of what it's like to be at home and relax, and they're like, what, maybe I've done my part, so that's going to open the door for younger designers, hopefully of diverse voices. And then when Broadway comes back, I've talked to a lot of Broadway assistants and associates for various research reasons, and they talk about, it's going to come back and it's going to be overwhelming, because, shows that were existing basically will have to retech and then open, and then shows that were new are already slotted, and then shows that are touring we got to go out and do and retech those too. So it's like things are going to fall on top of each other. So I think that's going to open doors for, again, younger and hopefully more diverse people to come into the industry. So I think it could be a really exciting shift when everything comes roaring back.
So you're seeing that the really successful designers will be hiring more people to help them put up the shows in multiple places.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how many jobs that creates, and what a great opportunity for people.
Mm-hmm.
This generational shift that you're talking about, Anne, I'm at that age. I'm getting to that age where it's time for me to sort of have a different kind of life. And to all things, turn. And that's the natural progression. And I think there's a thing called grace. And knowing your time to step aside and let the next generation forward is a graceful thing to do and a beautiful thing to do. And hanging on too tight, we're creative people. I'll find stuff to do. You will, we're going to keep engaged in arts. And so I think that generational shift is a natural progression that we should encourage.
I'm going to be a cannabis grower in Northern California.
I'm going to go back to pottery. I want to learn how to draw. I've got a list of things as an artist that I have not been able to do. And
no, seriously, I'm not going to stop until directors stop calling me. Because I can't say no.
Right?
I've tried to say no before.
Well, that's because you have an addiction.
Because I love them. I love these people.
Well, that's
and
fair.
I can't turn them down. And I could never leave that. I don't think I can.
That would be hard. I'm very excited about something new that I've learned of this summer, that USA, for the Broadway contract, that's Broadway CBA, they added something called a design member candidate. Have you heard of this?
No, but it sounds like an intern.
This is really exciting. Yeah, because, you can't intern on Broadway. Even the assistant 2 position is getting questionable now. And so designers were getting in trouble for having people do too much work, but it's hard to be exposed to Broadway unless you're union, and you can't be on Broadway until you're union, right? So the Broadway contract now has this clause called the design member candidate, and it's for somebody who is not union, and they are paid by the producers, so it's a paid role.
Wow.
And you can work on, I think it's just one show, maybe 2, I can't remember, but you can work on a show, like actually work on it and get Broadway credit before your union. So I think that's a huge boon for perhaps diverse choices.
That's great.
Or diverse
that's
people.
That's a door opening systemic change. Love it. That's great.
Wow.
So exciting.
Thank God my union's doing something productive, damn it.
Oh my gosh, they are taking over. They are changing so much right now. Like, it's really exciting where it's going to be.
Cyrus from Chicago writes, why is it that production manager... Wait a second. This question is great. This may be the best question ever submitted to Light Talk Central. And it just hits it right on the head. Cyrus from Chicago writes, why is it that production managers schedule lighting and sound level setting rehearsals at the same time? I find it extremely annoying listening to loud white noise while I am lighting at the table. This is not helping me create. What can I do?
I can't do it. I cannot do it at all.
But it still happens. It still happens to me. It's crazy. I mean, it's like, guys, really?
I don't know
like
why
pink
they
noise
do it.
better than white noise, but I hate when they're doing the drum test. That's the one that gets me.
Well, at least they say, loud coming, whatever they scream out, something's going to happen, and you can kind of prepare for it.
No, but it just breaks your whole zen with lighting. Yeah. This may be the only time you have. Now, we all know that it is unrealistic to expect that you have private time in the theater. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure. It happens sometimes, but rarely. It's just too expensive. So we work over things. We work over sound. We work over rehearsals. They got to keep it safe on stage, all that stuff. We work on lighting whenever we can work on lighting until they say it's too dangerous and you don't do it. But sound, when you have like sound levels happening, sometimes it's so loud I can't even think. And I come from rock and roll bands. I still play rock and roll. So it's really loud.
I can handle the sound check better than I can handle the scene shop or like hammering and nail guns and buzzsaws and routers. That's hard for me. The sound is sort of like that's part of it. I guess I could sort of be more tolerant of that. But to be in construction while I'm trying to write cues, that's sort of funny.
I don't even think. Well, he does mention sound level settings. I instantly think of. When they're simming the theater, where they just play pink noise for 4 hours or whatever.
Flat,
it's like
getting it flat
the whole time. That's a lot.
It's funny because the night before, when you're realizing how many hours you have to ask for, you're in rehearsal, and of course the production manager has to know that before she releases the crews. And so that they can tell when to be in, and the production manager goes, "So David, how much time you need?" I said, "I need 2 hours." He said, "Oh, great." He walks away. And he comes back, and goes, "Understand that the sound is going to be stealing the theater." I was like, okay, now I need 4 hours.
Right? I need 2 hours opposite that.
There are some things you can coexist with, and then some things you'd rather not coexist with.
And we love our sound friends, but it's a lot.
Our sound friends. Listen, I'm from the sound world, really. Even though you're listening to this crappy podcast right now.
Hey.
Originally, no, it's not about the talent. It's about the sound quality. But we're working on it. We're at 4.5 years. Maybe one day we'll find it.
I think you do a great job.
I work with acousticians a lot, and we do studies of new theaters. And we just did one this month, and they go in there and they bring in all this equipment and all these speakers and these big microphones that catch. They do all the statistical analysis, and they ask everybody to leave when they do that. And they'll be in there for 4 or 5 hours. To get all the reflections. They have software. It's quite a process.
Yeah, I've seen that. It is pretty amazing. But, we're talking theater. We're talking when everybody's trying to get something done because everybody has a lot to do.
Right.
It's the perfect communal type of
do you ever think, David, putting
experience.
on those headphones they use for, when you go to the shooting, when you take your gun and you go to do target practice, you put those headphones on? Would that work?
I only need it when I fire off my bazooka, the rocket launcher. But anyway,
bazooka is a great funny word to say.
Bazooka is a great word.
There are some words that are just funny.
Title of the episode, right?
Seinfeld.
Funny words.
Bazooka, another funny word.
Bazooka.
Bazooka's a funny word to say. And, canoe is also a funny word.
That's the title of the other. Canoe. That's the other one you thought was funny. Right. Now I remember.
Yiddish words. Yeah. You are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by
the Theatre Mediation Group. Studies have shown that political tribalism has affected our entire society. Instead of listening to and respecting divergent views, people are resorting to what has torn down civilizations for centuries, hating each other. Because of this, many designers are concerned that when we finally get back to work, our colleagues will have traveled so far to the dark side, creative teams will find it virtually impossible to recreate the synergy of collaboration. Will this happen? Well, we're betting on it. So what can you do? Make sure that your team will be able to collaborate freely by hiring the Theatre Mediation Group. The Theatre Mediation Group is made up of psychological specialists who are experts in conflict resolution, all without the need for dangerous weapons. Although none of our specialists have a degree in psychology, the Theatre Mediation Group has years of extensive experience in resolving conflicts between authoritarian directors, Nazi scenic designers, drunk producers, insane lighting designers, and costume designers armed with sharp scissors. You know who we're talking about. So, how does the Theatre Mediation Group handle collaboration in the post-pandemic, not-so-feel-good theatrical world? Our specialists will make sure that a fair and equitable discussion takes place when the team members initially present their points of view about the play. When one of the team members gets out of line, a powerful electronic shock will be immediately administered to that person's shock collar, batteries not included. Other positive behavior techniques are used throughout the entire production experience. These include production table bad habit sprays, an extra large and well-lit moron meter for stupid suggestions, and our patented actor removal beam, which automatically vaporizes annoying people approaching the hallowed sanctuary of the production table. In addition, our mediators are trained to navigate those very long and sometimes brutal post-rehearsal production meetings. You know, the ones that seem to last forever. Tempers can be easily ignited when members of the team are targeted to be victims of the production. That will not happen with our mediator present. Instead, the offending artist will be publicly spanked with whatever is left over from the dinner break. So don't take any chances. Let the Theatre Mediation Group ensure that your production will be a pleasant and non-lethal experience. The Theatre Mediation Group. We train dogs too.
Wow, I need that. You know, since we're living in a Greek tragedy, it reminds me of a story. Pam and I were walking across the campus at Georgetown when we were in Washington years ago, and we bumped into a guy, started a conversation. He was studying conflict resolution and international studies. And he said, "What do you guys do?" And I said, "I was a theater professor." And I asked him if he'd read any Shakespeare or any of the classics were part of his curriculum. And he said, "No." And I thought, how poor is that? To not study the classics and understand human nature from that perspective and be in conflict resolution. So for what it's worth. And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, those crazy ducks tells us that it's time for another installment of Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About segment is to answer this question. Are the performing arts near the point of no return?
Well, I read an article that was quite depressing about our industry that I posted to the Facebook page. I think it was the Washington Post, which David made me buy because I was not a Washington Post reader and he gave me so much guilt. But it talked about, it wasn't quite saying that. To be more specific, it was saying that because I think it was advocacy in a sense, it was if the Save Our Stages Act, which is part of the next stimulus, does not happen in the next 3 months, it will be incredibly devastating. And it referenced the Metropolitan Opera's canceling its season for 2021. And so I think it's trying to send up another red alert, which is that a lot of institutions are going to go under. Maybe not the commercial theater can return, but it's all these places that sort of live hand to mouth. And even the Met, as big as it is, kind of lives hand to mouth and relies on donors and grants and state money. And so, I think that's where it's coming from, that if we don't underpin these institutions, we may not see them come back for quite some time.
I would say that it depends on who wins the White House.
I agree.
And who wins the Senate. It is a political thing.
The reality is state coffers, which support a lot of non-commercial arts, they're in trouble. I mean, you can't sort of dismiss the economic impact of the pandemic. It is significant.
And when we do come back, and depending on what administration is in there, I could see either a great deal of help or a lot of the same. And our industry, I don't think, will survive a lot of the same. Yeah,
I mean, Ann's talking. We talk about Broadway, which is a commercial venture. Let's just be honest about it. It's not done for the love of it. We might love to go and see it, but it's a business, and a business can resurrect itself. It can raise some capital. It can get some things going. You've got a lot of real estate there. But the non-commercial theater, I think, is with a non-commercial type of work. rock and roll will probably come back, but then you think about those regionals. That's going to be tough.
And now for a contrary opinion.
Let us have it.
She's back. Where'd she go? She's like, while those two guys just pontificate away for 3 hours, I'm going to take a break.
She's going to smack us
come back.
She's going to smack us upside the head now.
Okay, because we were putting her to sleep.
No.
Along with the rest of our listeners. All right, go Ann.
Of course, all opinions are welcome here, but I am a more positive person. And
like us. Doom and gloom.
No doom, no doom. We are coming back. Are you kidding me? Like, are we going to go recycle all the moving lights in the world today? Like, are we really done? Who was it that said theater's been dying since it began or whatever?
right. Since the Greeks.
I mean, we made it through the last plague. We made it through the Black Death. We made it through, the 1912 fever. Like, we made it through all of this stuff. So, yes, it's hard now, but it is coming back. I mean...
Okay, I'm persuaded. Ann is right.
I am too. Ann is correct. I'm just going to cut the rest of that crap out of the show and go right to Ann's comment.
I mean, we've already, we opened Sleepless in London. Like, Billington lit that already. Six has an engagement in November, a limited engagement in November. Music Man on Broadway's already hung up its banner. Like it's coming back, people. We just need to hang on. So I've got, all these faculty members telling me, like, Zoom is the only performance art that's going to continue. And I'm like, come on. Like, Zoom performances?
Then I quit.
Yeah, then I quit, too, for sure. But
then I become that cannabis grower up north.
I think Ann's right.
And you're welcome to come with me, Ann. You come in, and we'll go some great pot up there.
I'm usually, David tells me I'm too much of an optimist, and I tell him he's too much of a dark one. So, I just posted the article because I thought, could it be? Are we at the brink? But I think if what we do need support.
I'm not saying it's not going to be hard, but it is coming back. Like, can you imagine recycling all the moving lights today? Like, $1 billion
No, we're gonna
industry.
hang them up inside my studio here at the house. Everybody, a moving light in every home, a chicken in every pot, a moving light in every kitchen.
So that's my 2 cents. We're coming back. We're coming back strong. When we come back, we're gonna kill it. It's gonna be amazing, and I cannot wait.
This is your title, David. A moving light in every pot.
I got 2 titles now.
Man,
what are we going to
do?
I got a longer, I don't know. Or, okay. So Ann has our last question of the day.
Okay. So speaking of positive thoughts, Kathy.
Yes.
Kathy in Charleston writes, my friends and I are opening an online comedy club. We have a small storefront and plan on having a live audience someday. What are the design challenges of a comedy club versus theater? See, Kathy's a positive thinker. She just opened a comedy club. That's amazing.
Good for her.
She's definitely got to be an optimist. She's a comedian.
I'll be there.
Right?
My ex-wife is a comedian, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
So, Kathy, I'm going to have her get in contact with you, I'm sure. She can use the job.
Well, David, you should answer because I haven't worked in a comedy club.
I've been to comedy clubs. I've never
done one.
designed one, but it's like, it's like a nightclub with you don't need a lot of great lighting in it. I mean, it's
a stage, right?
it's usually a stage, and it just depends on what they're doing or what you want to do with your club. If you want to have it flexible enough for small combos, for multiple people on stage, things like that. And obviously you would be able to assess the needs because you are the owner, right? You're opening it, so you already know what the needs are going to be and design for that. There's some great LED bars you can get. Again, the key is to keep good skin tones because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at people's skin the whole night. And, nice background.
Make it bright. It's comedy.
It needs to be. Yes, you don't want to hire an opera designer to do this.
It's not
you
dark.
Hire me.
It's bright and cheery.
So anyway, that's funny, Stan. But anyway, get a nice background and people, so people look good because it's usually just one person and an MC. And also, make sure you have nice light for the audience. Usually something very unobtrusive, nothing that's going to be lighting them in the eyes. Maybe just a straight down light over each table, and then have a nice little battery-powered LED fake flicker candle light on the table, some sort of a lamp there to motivate that, just to give a nice warm glow to the audience. Because you need the lights on at all times because people are going to be serving drinks, all that stuff. Hopefully you'll be serving a lot of drinks and make a ton of money.
Can watch a lot of Mrs. Maisel, right? There's a lot of them in there.
Oh,
that's
Mrs. Maisel.
wonderful.
Oh, man.
What a
But that's during the
wonderful show.
50s.
Yeah,
right?
but
That's
see what
all
other
in the
people
50s.
did. But the lighting's
Yeah.
modern.
Yes, unfortunately, the lighting is modern. I mean, Lenny Bruce is doing a gig like in 1950 something, and there's
With
a Source 4. There's a Source 4 in the club. I was like, oh my God.
Only geeks like us would care
I
about that.
know, but I notice every time.
I do too. Make it bright and beautiful. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, livedesignonline.com, and just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk Insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of the statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you decide to litigate us, the law firm of the Flecht, the Flocked, the Flare and the Glare, and the paralegal Snoot will defend us. Will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the amazing Lumen Brothers and also the sister.
Who is really amazing too, actually.
Thanks. Coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and San Clemente, California.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more happenings in our crazy industry.
All of that stuff and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Ann.
Bye, everybody.